everybody. Hey, everybody. Lean with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. What the actual fuck, Brittany? What the actual fuck? Welcome to season 2, episode 13 of I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God. How are you? Are you lovely? Are you magical? Do you feel good about yourself this morning? Name 3 things that you did today that were good already. You know, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? Did you help someone? Did you curse someone out? What the fuck did you do? I'm just curious. I'm being nosy. All right. Quit bullshitting. This is a serious episode. This is a very, very serious episode. Episode 13 of I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God is about the Annunaki. The goddamn Annunaki. And I told you all, I desperately wanted to do an episode on aliens. And here I am, a man of my word. I am doing an episode. I feel like, honestly, to explore something like the Annunaki and be sober is silly, right? So I decided to record this episode for a second time. This is the second time I'm recording this episode. The first time I recorded this episode sober, and I was like, no, this doesn't work for me. It was a good episode, but I was like, no, this isn't how I want to lay this out. This is too important of a topic. If you know me, then you know that I love me some ancient aliens. Last season, I did an episode on the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch was a joy. It was a wonderful pleasure to be able to do an episode and about something like that and to learn about this historical text. And like, honestly, the first abduction recorded ever, that was technically a part of biblical text is just insane, which, of course, once you read something about something like that, it opens your brain up to so many other possibilities that you just fall into these rabbit holes. And so I've already I mentioned the Annunaki in the Book of Enoch. So I decided to explore that. Every now and again, man, I need to take a break from the serial killer shit. You know what I mean? Like, I need to take a break from the serial killer shit. Sometimes the serial killer shit is exhausting. And I'm sure I have to explain. I don't think I have to explain why it's exhausting. And I did some, from October, from the Vampire of Sacramento, to Ed Kemper, to Ed Gein, to, 2 disappearances. I think I did Thelma Todd and Gene Spangler. Then I did Ayanna Kasian. Then I did the Toy Box Killer. I mean, murder rap, yummy. So many grotesque stories that, I kind of like just randomly, and I'll probably do this as I continue. I Swear to Drunk I'm Not God, just throwing in some alien shit, throwing in some ghost shit, which as kind of like a reprieve from actually having to constantly look up shit about murder. Because as you know, I honestly enjoy these topics. I enjoy conspiracy theories. I think they are very fun. I think they make real life shit fun. So I love exploring them. And I also love just being able to expose myself to just all types of different information so I can make my own assessment. And so it can kind of like weave together this beautiful tapestry of how I choose to live my life. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to subjects such as aliens, if you know me, you know that I am a celestial body myself. I am very spiritual, and I enjoy complex conversations about theoretical physics and astrophysics, the stars. I enjoy it all. I post content about this on my Instagram all the time. So to be able to explore this topic in a historical sense, as I was a child and I wanted to be an archaeologist. If you don't know, now you know. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid. I was a big fan of the dinosaurs. I was a big fan of the planets, learning about the planets. So I've always kind of been connected universally to the cosmos. And so doing this, exploring this was a personal journey for me first. And then, as like I said, a reprieve, I decided I'm just going to do an episode on the Annunaki so I can share what I've learned in the books that I've been reading. So thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. I'm gaining some momentum with listeners, and I'm thoroughly happy that so many people respect and appreciate, my voice. So thank you. I can't even express how grateful I am. And so again, I'm dropping shit. I'm sorry. So again, thank you. Episode 13, Annunaki. Let's do this. Now, before we even go into it, I want to say this because even though I've said all that, I'm a very logical individual. I'm not an idiot. So I want to disclaim that in the age of misinformation and AKA just too much fucking information as well, I strive to provide accurate information and factual information, right? Like this podcast may occasionally delve into speculative discussions and conjectures or alternative interpretations of events or phenomena. And I implore my listeners specifically to critically evaluate the information that I present and conduct their own research, period. You should be able to form your own fucking conclusions. I usually do not endorse or promote conspiracy theories in this space. I enjoy them personally, but any misinformation or false claims, I don't usually rock with, but I do aim to have and foster open-minded discussions and explore many different perspectives. So, as a listener of this episode, I want you to exercise discernment. I want you to be skeptical. When you're consuming content like this, especially as it pertains to controversial topics such as religion, or even politics, I want you to look up and rely on credible sources for information. I will provide as many sources as I can for what I did to write this summary, but go and find information yourself. If you are a religious individual, I am not trying to sway you left, right, or anywhere else. This is just something that I found incredibly interesting that I wanted to explore and that I wanted to share. And I felt like, in an age where we do have access to so much information, why not put it out there, what I've discovered, and, have a different perspective about why we're here. Now, a lot of scholars look at this, what I'm going to tell you about today, as pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience. So take that for whatever it is. Okay, cool. Now, the poison on this episode is the Monkey 47 Gibson. Now, the Monkey 47 Gibson, you're like, what is that? Monkey 47 is a gin. It's a gin that my sister bought me, and it is a wonderful gin. The Monkey 47 dry gin is what she bought me. The Gibson is dry gin, dry vermouth, and cocktail onions. The recipe calls for 2 ounces of Monkey 47, 1 ounce of dry vermouth, ice, and then 2 to 3 cocktail onions as garnish. So you can just skewer the onions to garnish the cocktail. You don't have to shake them in the drink or anything, just because you're probably like, fucking onions? What are we talking about? Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to get these ingredients. I plan on getting these ingredients and I plan on trying this cocktail, but for the sake of this podcast and my cocktail, I'm just having an Aperol spritz. So I will be tipsy with you. I just won't be drinking that cocktail. But if you follow me on TikTok at Sting Like a Bee, or if you follow me on Instagram at Swear to Drunk Podcast, or my personal Lavender and Bordeaux, drop a comment, let me know whether or not you fuck with that cocktail. Because I am very curious about cocktail onions. I knew about cocktail onions, but in all of my times of doing this podcast, I hadn't seen a fucking cocktail recipe that warranted it. And when I found one, I was like, right, cocktail onions. So I'm planning on buying some this weekend because I do want to try that. And if you know me, you know how fucking much I love onions. To me, it's a martini with onions instead of olives, right? Like ultimately at the end of the day, but onions are a little more potent if we're being honest. Okay, so that's the drink. It's a Monkey 47 Gibson. Sip. I'll sip my Aperol. Okay. All right. So now I will also like to say, this is going to be probably the most serious episode of I Swear to Drunk I Am Not God that you have ever heard. If you have been following me since H.H. Holmes and into the new season, you probably know I play a lot with certain topics and I can joke and things like that. But this felt so much like doing a fucking history report. And that as I was doing this, I was like, ooh, okay, this feels like a lecture. So I just want to warn you that this is going to be straight information. I will play around, of course, in the in between, but please understand that, again, it's a lot. Okay. It's a lot. Shit's about to get weird. Okay. So if you're ready, let's take you to another fucking planet. Let's go. All right, so we're going to start from the beginning. Now, how I fell into this, obviously, like I said, the Book of Enoch led me to other ancient texts that I just like on laying in bed, fucking high as ball, start looking into. And then I ran into this guy named Billy Carson. Now, if you are on Instagram or TikTok, then you've probably seen Billy Carson's videos. He's a very beautiful black man. He has a cornucopia of topics on his YouTube channel, Forbidden Knowledge, 4 as in 4, the number, Bidden Knowledge on YouTube. And he's very, very interesting to watch because he makes all of these very complex concepts seem very simple, just to the average brain, right? Like to the layman who is not that technical, who's not that bright, or at least not as bright as he is. He does make it very, very easy to consume his material. And he also has the ability to take mysteries of the universe and make you go, oh, I can see it being, I can see that. Okay. He's that guy. So we're going to start first by talking about Billy Carson. Now, Billy Camrick Carson II was born September 4th, 1971 in Queens, New York to Ingrid and Billy Carson Sr. He grew up actually in Miami, Florida, where he got his first job as a paperboy at 12 and completed his high school education there. Now, I don't have any information on his college background. So I just want to say that, other than the certificates he got, which I will tell you what those are in a second. But from his earlier hustles, Carson's entrepreneurial spark kind of ignited. He flipped newspaper earnings into digital car stereo ventures, which I'm like, wow, the fuck. Then he jumped into wholesale at 16. Now, in 2008, Carson's heart led him to found SheCanPlay.org, which is a nonprofit hooking up girls' high school basketball teams with much needed resources. Then he dove into the corporate world where he became a CEO. He had a company called Fort Terra Nova in 2010. Then he scored super big with a $20 million fund to build an underground city in Northwest Georgia. Like fucking doomsday. Okay. Prep. You hear me. But he didn't stop there. Simultaneously, he was running a show at Zen Force Media. And Carson's quest for knowledge went next level in 2012 with number 4, Bidden Knowledge, Inc. This was a blog and it started blowing up. And it blew up so much that it turned into a TV network, Forbidden Knowledge. Now, Forbidden Knowledge is dedicated to spreading knowledge about ancient civilizations, consciousness, and the nature of reality. And in 2015, Billy lost his father in an unprovoked attack by the police in Palm Bay, Florida. His father suffered a broken back and a double concussion, which caused his father, who had already been battling with depression, to fall deeper and deeper into a depression and self-medicate. And his father had also been dealing with addiction his entire life to both drugs and alcohol, which ultimately led to his death. And I would also like to say that to this day, Billy Carson does not drink or do drugs. He just doesn't. And I want to say that because shit gets weird real quick. So You just don't, you know, you just don't want, you just don't want there to be a situation where people are like, well, this dude was obviously high. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not, it's just not good. And so, like, for me, to me, it's, anyway, I don't want people to think, like, as I'm telling the information that he wrote about, that at any point you're probably like, oh, he was probably just high or he was probably just drunk. So that's why I felt like it was necessary to say whether or not Billy Carson does drugs or drink. Okay? You got me? So now Billy is an entrepreneur. He's an author. He's a researcher. I mean, he's known for work in exploring topics related to ancient civilizations, extraterrestrial life, and consciousness. Carson has written several books, including The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, which, by the way, is the book that I read. And I also watched several of his lectures as well as podcast interviews. I'm going to link all that stuff in the show notes. He wrote The Epic of Humanity and Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, which delve into subjects such as ancient texts, advanced technologies of ancient civilizations, and personal development. Now, he has appeared on various podcasts and radio shows to discuss his research and theories about ancient civilizations, the cosmos, and the human potential. I mean, Carson is known for his engaging style and his ability to present complex ideas in a way that is accessible to a wider audience. Billy Carson is the host of a show called Deep Space, which is a streaming series by Gaia. He's an expert host on Ancient Civilization series, also produced by Gaia. He's the founder of UFAH, UFAH, the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. They provide evidence of past and present life on Earth. Their focus is in the study of archaeoastronomy and astroanthropology. Carson has a certificate of science with a concentration in neuroscience from MIT and a certificate in ancient civilizations from Harvard University. He's the CEO of the First Class Space Agency, where they research and develop alternative propulsion systems and zero-point energy devices. Billy Carson has also made his mark in television. He has been on shows on the Travel Channel, on the History Channel, and on the Discovery Channel. So how did he get into this stuff? Well, according to Billy, he had two alien encounters, one as a child in 1977 and one as an adult in 2010. And on the Sean Ryan show, Billy talked about his experience as a child when he witnessed a flying saucer that was silver and glowing. It had no cockpit or wings, okay? And then he claimed it cleared the horizon in seconds, not minutes. That was a quote. He said it came back and it hovered over him at around 200 meters, which is about 660 feet above his head. And then it took off at top fucking speed in the direction that it came. Now, he told his mother about this experience, and she told him that there were people on this planet in ancient times that had more technology than you could ever possibly think of. And everything she was willing to tell him, he started to discover in ancient texts. So she told him people lived on top of mountains and that they could fly from planet to planet, which I'm like, Mama Carson, God damn. You're talking about somebody who, except to that, you're talking about somebody who was obviously already operating on a totally different frequency to even be in that headspace to be comfortable enough to know that your child had this experience and this is how I'm going to make him feel better about this experience based on what I know, which is that your experience, I will validate this because it's possible. You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's a good part of parenting. I mean, and people will disagree with me on this, I'm sure, but I think a great part of parenting, and obviously don't make shit up, but if there is some information that and your child is having an experience, whether paranormal or a situation such as this, where they're experiencing a phenomena that you believe could possibly be true, you should express to them the possibilities, because to me, what you create and what you incept into that child is that anything is possible. And that creates a different scope of a whole different universe. Because if you constantly tell your child, if you put them in a box and you say what is and what isn't all the time, and primarily focus on what isn't, then you kind of create more closed-minded children. But if you tell your child, one, either I don't know, or you tell them like what she told them, basically that shit, there used to be other people in another time and they had more than we had and they did this and they did that, then you're giving him this spirit of exploration, which I think is, is where knowledge comes from. Was it Socrates who said that knowing is knowing that you know nothing? These are important things when it comes to quests for knowledge, because quests for knowledge require that you ask a question and search for the answer. If you know fucking everything, then what exactly are you searching for? So, I think his mother is a wonderful creature for this, because I think this is something that, that more parents should do to their kids, especially when they don't know. Sometimes we have so much courage behind our convictions that we kind of try to solidify certain concepts that we don't even really know to be true. And we instill those things into our children. And then our children go through their lives thinking that, well, my mama said it was exactly the way it fucking was. And it's like, but what did your mom know for real? Did she know? Just saying. Now, she told him also that people lived on top of mountains and they can fly from planet to planet. Now, this is how he got into aerospace research and reading all the Encyclopedia Britannicas to try to find what he saw. He was trying to figure out, like, what the fuck was that? Which I'm like, respect, kid. Fucking respect. So, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a wonderful thing because I want to give credit to my elementary school teachers like Miss Pamphlet and Miss Northern, who taught me dinosaurs and history and things like that, which kind of like put in my granddad Benny, who bought me the animal fact file so I can research animals, because it then created in me at a very young age this spirit of constantly wanting to know. I've said this before in an episode when I referenced my ex-boyfriend and my past experience with him, where he used to get really frustrated with me because I always asked why. Just curious. What's your reasoning behind this? Because maybe I'm missing something. And people look at questioning as a persecution. And I think the only people who look at question as persecution is when they know that their intent behind what they're doing is nefarious, versus like people who are like, oh, you questioned me and I will give you the answer because I'm confident in what I'm telling you. There's a difference. You know what I mean? Like me asking a person, well, why did you do that? Isn't me judging you. Or why does this exist? Isn't me saying that it doesn't exist. It's just me saying that I want to know because I don't know. And we get so intimidated by questions. And I think that that's why, it's so interesting. That's why I said at the beginning, like in an age of misinformation and too much information, is the fact that we now have the ability to go into a search engine and ask it any question that we want to ask it. And we're still fucking ignorant because we don't even know what questions we want to ask. It requires critical thought. It requires way more than you just going to school. It requires logic. It requires to me, knowledge is so connected to spirit. What do you truly want to know? And so sometimes we just blindly type shit. How do you make cheese? Like late night high as fuck. Who decided to make milk? Who decided that it was okay to drink milk? Like those like little funny questions we ask ourselves. But then there are some questions that I know have been burning inside me since I was a kid, which is, what came first, chicken or the egg? Who are we? What are we? Why are we? Like, are we it? And then as I got older, I was like, can't be. Impossible. With everything that we have, with everything that we're able to do, with who we are right now, there's no way we're it. There's nowhere we're it. And there's no way we're the most intelligent species. There's no way. So for him to have that experience as a child, to me, made absolutely sense as to why he was led onto this journey. Even in his dedication in the compendium, the book that I read, he mentions his mother and how she introduced him to Machu Picchu and the Nazca lines and how she believed that they were possibly remnants of an ancient airport. His mom was tapped in. Now the second more upsetting encounter happened in 2010. While watching TV, the room turned, quote, lavender, and the TV shut off. He thought his kids were fucking with him and playing with the lights and playing with the TV. But somehow, when he turned around, he realized nobody was behind him. His kids weren't behind him. And when he turned back around towards the TV, he saw 2 gray type aliens in front of him. Now, according to him, he couldn't scream. He could feel his brain shake inside his skull. And before he knew it, they kind of just slinked away through a wall. They didn't walk, he said. They kind of dangled. He said they had long arms, long fingers, and they kind of dangled. And he freaked out so badly that it scared his family and spearheaded the divorce to his ex-wife. And one of his sons, being so afraid of him, don't even want to be around him to this day. Now, while he was on the Flagrance podcast, he was telling this story. The Flagrance podcast is the podcast with Andrew Scholes. Andrew takes note of the fact that Billy, while telling the story, could have been crying because every time Billy talks about this, he cries. He said he could have been crying because, he's an actor, or because of the visceral, physical, emotional response that a person may have from losing their family. But Billy started to sweat. And that made Andrew feel like his reaction was a little more convincing, because not a lot of people just break into a sweat when they're telling a story. Even Andrew's like, I don't think actors can cue sweat. It's like sweat is more of an environmental thing. It has to be hot in the room. The heart rate has to be elevated. You got a whole ass adult sitting on the couch telling a story and he starts to sweat when he wasn't sweating the whole fucking time. Now, after this, Billy claims that this experience, he started hearing in his head 2 words, worldwide telescope, over and over and over again. So he searched it and he discovered a website by that name. The website is called worldwidetelescope.org, which, according to their site, is a, quote, fiscally sponsored project by Numb Focus, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting the open source scientific computing community. Work on WWT has been supported by the American Astronomical Society, AAS, the .NET Foundation, the National Science Foundation, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and Microsoft. It is not a physical telescope. It's a suite of free and open source software and data sets that combine to create stunning scientific visualizations and stories. The purpose of the Worldwide Telescope Project is to enable the seamless visualization and sharing of scientific data and stories from major telescopes, observatories, and institutions among students and researchers through science museums and full dome immersive planetariums and in scholarly publications. Now, the original conception of the Worldwide Telescope Project dates back to at least 2002, when legendary database researcher Jim Gray envisioned a system to organize the world's astronomical imagery in the same way that his Terra Server project was organizing imagery of the Earth. Jim's tragic disappearance at sea in 2007 spurred his colleagues at Microsoft Research, MSR, to launch an undertaking to turn his dream into a reality. basically recruiting 3D graphic experts and astronomy enthusiasts, John Fay, to lead the software development in collaboration with professional educators and astronomers like Harvard professor Eliza Goodman. End quote. Now, according to Billy, the discovery of this site led him to research in anomalies on other planets, i.e. objects that do not appear to belong where they are. For example, weird objects that look human on Mars. Anomaly hunting led him to researching ancient civilizations. His project UFA has documented over 60,000 anomalies. I mean, fucking dope. Like, come on. Now, what does this all mean? Well, it could possibly mean that between Earth and Mars, we were, according to several different ancient texts, created with a specific goal in mind, and we are alien fucking hybrids. Look here. So let's talk about it. You ready? According to Carson, he knows where we came from. So let's take a sip. So Billy speaks of a few tablets, and I'm going to lay them out to give you an understanding of why he feels so confident about his claims. Because, you know, when Billy talks about this shit, it's not a question. Okay, it's not a question of whether or not this shit happened. To him, the shit happened. This is why we're here. This is the purpose we're here. You know, so I'm very excited to explore this with you all. I'm gonna be 100% honest. So let's talk about the tablets. So there are a couple tablets. Now, stay with me here. The first tablet is the Enuma Elish. That's the 7 tablets of creation. Now, the Enuma Elish is a Babylonian creation myth and has about 1,000 words of cuneiform wedged on 7 clay tablets. Now, this epic's translation describes the creation of the world and battles between gods and the creation of man. I would also like to say that Carson follows the interpretation of a man named Zachariah Sitchin. Now, when it comes to the Enuma Elish and the claims about the Enuma Elish, Zachariah Sitchin is more known for his fringe theories. So, again, practice discernment. There are translations that Carson claims that are similar that predates even Zachariah's existence. You know, so I feel like that's just important to say. Now, the second tablet is called the Atrahasis epic. It is also clay, and it includes the creation of the universe as well as the story of one of 3 Babylonian floods. The Atrahasis epic shares similarities with other flood myths such as the Epic of Gilgamesh and the biblical story of Noah's Ark. You've heard of that last one. These are both Akkadian epics written in cuneiform. Now, cuneiform is one of the earliest systems of writing. It originated in ancient Mesopotamia around the late 4th millennium BCE. It was used primarily by the Sumerians, the Akkadians, and other ancient people of Mesopotamia. Now, the term cuneiform comes from the Latin word cuneus, meaning wedge, and forma, meaning shape, because the characters in cuneiform are made up of a wedge-shaped impression. Now, when I looked at cuneiform, what cuneiform looks like to me is a line with a sideways triangle, almost like a flag, and they're angled in different directions. That's what cuneiform looks like. Now, the writing system was a significant challenge for scholars until the 19th century, when advancements in the understanding of ancient languages and scripts allow for its translation. I will say that sometimes looking at cuneiform, I'm like, what the fuck? How you get words from this? You know, how you get words? I need to know. I gotta know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you bitches figured this shit out, because it just looks like a bunch of sideways flags to me. Now, this is where it's going to get funky. Okay. So we talked about the Enuma Elish and the Atra Hasis. Those are tablets. We're going to talk about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. That's the third set of tablets. Now, according to Carson, these are made out of transmuted emerald, making them unalterable. Now, they are written in an Atlantean language and fastened together with gold hoops. These tablets were discovered by a man named Marcus Durrell in 1925, who believed he received a revelation from Thoth himself while in the WW2 trenches. So, just saying. That's where things get a little shaky. Not only did he find out where the fuck these tablets were, Thoth told Marcus where to find them, which was in a Mayan pyramid, and how to translate them. He told him how to translate them. So, again, that's where shit gets a little shaky. He stole them, apparently, and then took them to Egypt, where he was to deliver them to the halls of Amenti. Now, the halls of Amenti have apparently been there undisturbed for over 3,000 years. He delivered the tablets, and Thoth sealed the entryway, which is still unknown until this day. Now, we'll get into this more later. Now, there are 15 emerald tablets. Lastly, there's the Emerald Tablet of Hermes as the purse, Hermes. Hermes Trismegistus, who Carson believes is Thoth. Hermes, his tablet, is written in Hermetic text and was later translated to Latin. The emerald tablets, including Hermes's, are said to describe the principles of alchemy, astrology, and spiritual transformation. They present a philosophy that emphasizes the unity of the material and the spiritual worlds, and they offer guidance on achieving spiritual enlightenment and understanding the nature of reality. The tablets are said to contain the wisdom of Thoth, conveyed through Hermes Trismegistus. Now, according to Carson, if you'd like to read any tablets, there's the CDLI, the Cuneiform Digital Library Initiative. I actually went to this website. It's curated by UCLA. It's a digital library that allows for researchers to pull tablets from their digital shelves and to go drop them in a translator and read them yourselves. That part is mad true. As you know, I did an episode on the Book of Enoch, which is the first account of an alien abduction. The Book of Enoch was a text that was about Enoch and his adventures. He's basically the great-grandfather of Noah. And his adventures are very, very alien. I mean, and I find it incredibly convenient that the Book of Enoch was removed from the canonized text of the Bible, even though Enoch is mentioned in the Bible 5 times. So you mention him, but he just kind of just pops in and out. You don't even explain where he came from, who he is, or what he does. He just is. Now, Carson starts off by saying that the creation of the entire solar system is in the Enuma Elish. Enuma Elish means when on high. And technically, the Enuma Elish predates the Book of Enoch by centuries. Enuma Elish is a Babylonian creation myth that dates back to the 18th century BCE, making it significantly older than the Book of Enoch. It recounts the origins of the universe, the gods, the humanity, as well as the rise of the Babylonian pantheon to power. Now, the Book of Enoch is believed to have been composed during the Second Temple period, roughly between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century BCE. What is so strange about this concept of the Anunnaki and the creation myths from different cultures were the fact that it seems a race of beings showed up all over the globe out of no fucking where, and they started doing shit. You know, just started doing shit. The Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, and other tablets share mythological similarities between myths in Yoruba, in Africa, Mayan, Chinese, Egyptian, also in Africa, and the list fucking goes on. Now, according to Carson, the Anunnaki mentioned in the Sumerian text arrived 450,000 years ago, which predates the existence of the Homo sapien by 250,000 years. So who are the Anunnaki? Right? Like, who the fuck are the Anunnaki? That's what we're here for. The Anunnaki are a group of deities in ancient Mesopotamian mythology, particularly in Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian cultures. The word Anunnaki translates to, quote, those who from heaven to earth came in Sumerian. Now, they were believed to be a group of gods and goddesses who played significant roles in the creations of humanity, the establishments of civilization, the various other aspects of Mesopotamian mythology. And they could have possibly come from many other places or planets. So this is who we're dealing with. Now, in Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki were seen as the offspring of the sky god Anu and the earth goddess, Ki. They were associated with different aspects of nature, such as fertility, agriculture, warfare, wisdom. Some well-known Anunnaki include Enlil, the god of the wind and storms and chief god of the pantheon, Enki, the god of water, wisdom, and magic, Ninhursag, the goddess of fertility, mountains, and rulers, Nana or Sin, the god of the moon, Utu or Shamas, god of the sun and justice, and Inanna or Ishtar, the goddess of love, fertility, and war. Now, Carson believes that Isis, the goddess in Egypt, was actually a part of the Sumerian pantheon and is referenced in the tablets as the birth mother to the most modern version of the Homo sapien. Now, Carson also believes that the Anunnaki are, according to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, Atlanteans, and were responsible for creating many Atlantean civilization, not just one. Now, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth were written by Thoth 36,000 years ago, and it is believed that the writings of Thoth are uncannily similar to the writings of Jesus in the New Testament, which would mean that Jesus was Thoth or the son of Thoth. Jesus' story is only 2,000 years old. And according to Carson, Jesus studied Egyptian mysteries in the Apocrypha texts and taught reincarnation and meditation. Now, the Emerald Tablets, depending on the translations and the interpretations, they include some very interesting themes. We're talking about alchemy. The tablets are said to contain teachings on principles and processes of alchemy, like transmutation of base metals into gold, as well as spiritual alchemy involving the transformation of the soul. It also includes universal laws. Thoth is said to have revealed universal laws and principles that govern the cosmos, such as the law of correspondence, as above, so below, the law of vibration, and the law of polarity. Now, the tablets are said to contain knowledge about the nature of the universe. It also supposedly contains the origin of humanity, the relationship between the material and the spiritual realms. Thoth is said to impart wisdom and guidance for seekers on the path to spiritual enlightenment, including methods of achieving inner harmony, self-realization, and enlightenment. So who is Thoth? Never heard of him. Who the fuck is Thoth? Well, Thoth is an Egyptian deity. He's depicted as a man with the head of an ibis, and an ibis is one of those birds with the really curved hook, skinny beak, or he had the head of a baboon. He is associated with wisdom, writing, magic, the moon, I mean, Thoth played a multifaceted role in Egyptian religion and culture, serving as a mediator between the gods and humans. He was also a scribe of the gods. He was also a patron of knowledge and learning. His image is sometimes depicted with a stylus, which is what they write with, which is technically what you write cuneiform with, a book and a moon crown. Now, Thoth was believed to be the inventor of writing and the patron deity of scribes, making him the central figure in the development of the Egyptian civilization. He was also associated with the afterlife, where he played a role in guiding souls through the underworld and judging the deceased. And in addition to his role in the religious and cultural context, Thoth was also revered as a healer and a protector of the natural order. He was often invoked in magical rituals and was believed to possess the power to control the forces of fucking nature. He also maintained the universe. Now, according to Carson, Thoth ruled over Kim, modern day Egypt, for thousands of years and built the Egyptian pyramids, the Great Pyramids, to guard the emerald tablets and to conceal the halls of Amenti. Now, Thoth says that beneath the Great Pyramid stands the doorway to the underworld, where the masters of masters dwell. What the fuck do you think that means? Look, I'm just the messenger. Now, Annunaki. So, in Sumer, there was a part, which is a part of southern Mesopotamia, which is now south central Iraq. The people of Sumer were Sumerians, and they lived from around 4000 BCE to 1800 BCE. They're considered one of the earliest known civilizations in history. But as more and more tablets were being uncovered and translations were, being revealed, they realized that the Sumerians never staked claim for any of their achievements or any of the advancements, and they gave all the credits to gods. These gods were flesh and fucking blood. They lived among them, and they created them, and they still lived among them. Now, in the Enuma Elish, according to Carson and Zechariah Sitchin, the Sumerians describe a battle in the universe between Gaga, Pluto, Ea, Neptune, Anu, Uranus, Anshar, Saturn, Kishar, Jupiter, which revolved around Apsu, the sun. Then there was the planet Tiamat, which apparently contained a lot of elemental gold, Mumu, Mercury, Lahamu, Venus. Then there was this reddish planet called Nibiru, meaning crossing or point of transition. So named because on its orbit, it crosses all of the other planetary orbits. Now, according to Carson, Tiamat is 6 times the size of Earth. I'd also like to say that at this point, Earth did not exist. Tiamat collided with one of Nibiru's many moons, shattered the planet into pieces between Mars and Jupiter. And this area in the Enuma Elish is called the Hammered Bracelet, aka what we call the asteroid belt. Now, it's believed that Tiamat's other piece broke off, was struck again by Nibiru's moon, and was pushed into a new orbit, making what we call Earth, aka Ki. And our moon is actually one of the larger moons of Tiamat, called Kingu. Now, Zechariah Sitchin believed that Nibiru was the home of a human-like alien race called the Annunaki. Carson also believes that the Tiamat is Mars, which is why it has a side. That the Tiamat hit Mars, which is why it has a side that is damaged and scorched. So, please God, tell me that you are still very with me. Okay, because this is a lot. I know. Now, again, the Anunnaki arrived 450,000 years ago. They were looking for minerals and gold, which they successfully found an Abzu. Abzu is Africa. And in the Atrahasis, Nibiru was inhabited by some anthropomorphic hominids. It is believed that Nibiru is what some theorists call Planet X. Now, I had to look this up. According to NASA.gov, quote, Caltech researchers have found mathematical evidence suggesting there may be a planet X deep in the solar system. This hypothetical Neptune-sized planet orbits our sun in a highly elongated orbit far beyond Pluto. The object, which the researchers have nicknamed Planet 9, could have a mass about 10 times that of Earth and orbit about 20 times farther from the sun on average than Neptune. It may take between 10,000 and 20,000 Earth years to make one full orbit around the sun. Astronomers studying the Kuiper belt have noticed some of the dwarf planets and other small icy objects tend to follow orbits that cluster together. By analyzing these orbits, the Caltech team predicted the possibility that a large, previously undiscovered planet may be hiding far beyond Pluto. They estimate the gravity of this potential planet might explain the unusual objects of the Kuiper objects. Astronomers will begin using the world's most powerful telescopes to search for the object in its predicted orbit. Any object that far away from the sun will be very faint and hard to detect, but astronomers calculate that it could be possible to see it using existing telescopes. End quote. Now, what was the goal for all of this gold? Well, it's believed that the ancients needed minerals to fix the atmosphere on their planet. There was Ki, aka Earth, and the hammered bracelet, aka the asteroid belt. They both were very ripe with gold. Once on Earth, in the Atrahasis, there were 3 Sumerian gods: Enki, sea, as in ocean, Enlil, earth, and Anu, sky. Anu was the ruler of Nibiru, and his sons were Enlil and Enki, which is where we get Annunaki. The Sumerians and the Babylonian texts tend to have these similarities. Both the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis share common themes and motifs, despite being distinct texts with different primary narratives. I mean, the Enuma Elish is believed to have been composed during the Babylonian period around the 18th to 16th century BC. Remember, because I know you're probably like, why is it 18 to 16? I always got to explain these to people. When it's before Christ, think about it like a scale. Anything after Christ works, the years are sequential, year 0 all the way to 2023. Anything before Christ, it goes from 0 and then it works its way up. So when we go 18 to 16 centuries, 18, it's usually it would be 16 to 18th century, but when it's BC, it's backwards. It's 18th to 16th century. Does that make sense? We go from 0 and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way backwards. But after Christ, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forward. Okay. You got me? I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense because now I'm a little tipsy. Now, although its origins may date back even earlier to the Sumerian civilization, this is the Enuma Elish is technically older. The Atrahasis is thought to have been composed during the Old Babylonian period around the 18th century BCE. Both epics involve conflicts among the gods. In the Enuma Elish, the conflict arises between younger and older generations of gods, leading to a battle for supremacy. In the Atrahasis, the conflict arises from the gods' dissatisfaction with humanity and their decision to send a flood to destroy them. The creation myth is also similar. Both texts contain elements of creation mythology. The Enuma Elish describes the creation of the universe and the establishment of cosmic order through a series of divine actions and battles. But the Atrahasis includes a creation narrative in which the humanity is created by the gods to serve them, but then later they face destruction due to their own disobedience. They both have the flood narrative too. Both epics include accounts of a catastrophic flood that was sent by the gods. But in the Enuma Elish, the flood is mentioned as part of the backstory, with the destruction of humanity preceding the creation of the world. And in the Atrahasis, the flood is the central event, and the protagonist which is Atrahasis, is instructed to build an ark to serve to survive the deluge, the fucking, put everybody in the boat shit. Noah, basically. Now, divine intervention. Both texts features instances of divine intervention, like in human affairs. In the Enuma Elish, the gods shape the world and determine the fates of humanity and the cosmos through their actions and decisions. In the Atrahasis, the gods directly intervene in human affairs by sending the flood as a means of punishment and later establishing a covenant with the survivors. So to me, one feels like a prequel and the other one is, you know what I mean? Like the Enuma Elish feels like a prequel. That's what that feels like. Now, there is a lot of order and chaos, the gods representing the cosmic order and the stability, while also embodying elements of chaos and conflict. The struggle between order and chaos is a recurring motif in both texts. So this just shows how complex and dynamic the cosmos is, especially in Mesopotamian mythology. Now, while all circumstantial and heavily interpreted over centuries, Carson shares the same story over and over and over again, that Enki, Enlil, and Anu were using the Ijiji to do all of their labor. After finding gold in Abzu, which is Africa, the workers were used to mine underground. They were farming, they were maintaining the waters, etc. In the Atrahasis, these people were goddesses, but they were lower level goddesses, and they were sick of all of the fucking strenuous work. They were also sick of not having no bitches. They wanted women. They're like, where the women at? You got us doing all this work and ain't no bitches. What? I'm just the man. What am I supposed to do? I'm just a god. What am I supposed to do? This isn't fun. Now, after thousands of years, because back then the Anunnakis measured time in SAR, which is the unit of time that is 3,600 Earth years. It's obvious the Anunnaki were very immortal. They worked this land until the workers said, nope, no more. We're done. Nope, we're done. We've worked for thousands of fucking years. Ain't no bitches. We tired. We don't want to do this no more. And according to Carson, they just were like, Enki sided with them. Enki was like, all right, this is what we can do. I propose that we'll create a primitive worker to do the work so the Ijiji can chill. And then so Enki goes to his brother Enlil and the gods. And he says, and this is in a place called Eden, by the way. Very similar to Eden, Edin versus Eden. And Edin means home of the righteous ones. This area was established by Enlil while Enki was in charge of the mining operations. And this created a bitter dispute between Enki and Enlil because Enki felt betrayed, even though Enlil was first in line. Now, Enki told the gods that, look, there's already a being on Earth that, according to the text, they fit that like Homo erectus type of human, but they had to inject their essence, or in the biblical sense, create men in their image. So Enlil was anti. He was like, no, That is not why we fucking came to Earth, bro. And so then they decided, we're going to just do it then. Just to keep the Ajiji happy, we'll make men by mixing our own essence and using birth mothers to birth offspring. Now, according to Carson, this was the case of, like I mentioned before, Isis in the Egyptian mythology. And in Sumerian texts, Adamu and Tiamat, or Ninhursag, the mother goddess, makes humans. Human means God man, out of clay, from earth and blood. Now, Adamu, Adam, the first human man, and Tiamat, technically Eve, the first woman, it is believed that the first humans were not able to procreate naturally and required even more genetic tinkering in order to continue the species and prevent having to use these birth goddesses to carry the embryos to term, which according to Carson was originally 10 months, not 9. So here we are. Human beings are being created and being genetically modified by an advanced alien species. I hope you're still with me. Now, after the creation of this new race of beings, the Anunnaki soon found out that they were starting to regress. The new race was regressing. They were not as useful as they were when they were younger. And this was after some time passed. But the breeding continued and the Ijiji were satisfied. But then Enki then mated with 2 earthling women to have his own son and daughter. These 2 were considered the Homo sapien sapiens. They did not regress as they got older. And they were also able to breed their own offspring. Civilized man was finally created. Excuse me. And this is theoretically the species we are today. According to the Sumerians, the Anunnaki only wanted us to work. That's it. They wanted gold for their new planet, their old planet, because Tiamat exploded, which was, a wealth of gold, broke off, turned into earth, but they needed somebody to mine it. They were using the Ajiji. The Ajiji wasn't fucking with all the work it required to do this. They were like, I don't want to do this no more. So they created a whole new race of species, the Anunnaki did. But then the breeding kept breeding. They kept breeding over and over and over again. The population escaped the Anunnaki. And what did they do? They abandoned us. Sip. Yep. Deadbeats. Abandoned the fuck out of us. Left us here wandering through the cosmos, confused as fuck, trying to figure out how we got here. Now, in the Atrahasis and later in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enlil never wanted the breeding of man to exist. He didn't want it to happen. The plan he had was, we got to destroy these bitches. But first, Enki, who, of course, we know is his brother, who is anti-Enlil, who was probably just being fucking anti himself and was like, you know what, fuck you. No, I'm a warn Atrahasis, and I'm going to tell him that you're planning on fucking flooding the planet. And you're planning on destroying mankind. And I'm going to tell Atrahasis how to save himself. So he told him to build a boat. Does that sound familiar now? Enki told his brother that he made sure life was fucking preserved. Rub it in his face, why don't you? The connection to Noah's Ark is not fucking debatable. The Epic of Gilgamesh Gilgamesh is even mentioned in the Book of Enoch, the Book of Giants in the Book of Enoch. Now, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, quote, the gods decide to destroy humanity by sending a flood to wipe out all of life on Earth due to the noise and disturbances caused by humans. However, the god Enki warns. Now, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Noah's character has another name. It's Utnapishtim. So that's who I'm talking about in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And Enki is Ea in Epic of Gilgamesh. So notice how all of these characters and all these different texts, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Book of Enoch, the Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, the emerald tablets, they all have, well, not even the emerald tablets, but the creation myths, they all have the same fucking purpose with a different name. And this has been my biggest issue with religion in general and why we fight each other over this dumb shit. Because at the end of the fucking day, it's all the same shit. It's all the same people. The thing about the Annunaki, as it seems, is that there were so many of them all over the world doing all different shit. And they all had their own cultures. They all had their own race, which according to Carson is why all of our skin colors are different. It has nothing to do with white people being in the mountains and turning pale and black people being in Africa and getting dark. He does not believe that is why we have different races. He thinks that each Anunnaki being had their own stamp, and how they identified their people was by skin color. And he also says that the Anunnaki were not just black and white. There were blue ones as well. And I think he said there was like a yellow one. And then there was like there's a rainbow of fucking skin colors for these people. But ultimately, when it came to being here on Earth and creating humanity, in order to identify where people belong, they created these different colors in skin, because the time that it would take for us to evolve into all of these different complexions is technically scientifically too short, according to him. So back to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, Enki warns Gilgamesh's version of Noah, Utnapishtim, of the impending disaster and instructs him to build a boat to save himself, his family, and various animals, which most ancient astronaut theorists do not look at this as an actual boat. They think the destruction of humanity came about primarily, and then they kind of had a ship, kind of like a DNA bank. More of like a DNA bank than actual physical animals. But Utnapishtim builds the boat according to Enki's instructions, loads it with his family, craftsmen, and animals. And when the flood comes, it lasts for 6 days and 6 nights, covering the earth with water. After the flood waters recede, Utnapishtim's boat come to rest on the top of a mountain, and he releases birds to determine if the flood waters have receded. Finally, Utnapishtim offers sacrifices to the gods, who are pleased with his piety. So there you have it. A flood myth that ultimately creates a covenant of worshipers. Now, Britt, what aliens? Well, at this point, I feel like it's obvious. But Carson's theory is that Thoth from the Emerald Tablets was also Anunnaki, as well as the other Egyptian gods of the Egyptian pantheon. Thoth was enlisted to go back to the land of, quote, hairy barbarians and teach them. Carson also believes that Enki, who Carson compares to Thothme, who was the father of Thoth, now Thoth's job was to bring the civilization back up after the flood. That was Thoth's job. Thoth's job is, oh, fuck, we now have all these people. We have this new civilization. Now we need someone to bring humanity, consciousness, science, mathematics, knowledge to this new civilization, because we can't have them wandering around like fucking hairy barbarians, right? In order to do this, he descended on the land of Kim, modern day Egypt. He was attacked by the hairy barbarians initially when he landed, to which he blasted them with a weapon that caused them to stop dead in their tracks. He said, quote, raging they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the son of Atlantis. Then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. Ancient text talking about ray guns of vibration, though? That's weird. Now, Thoth is credited with teaching a wide range of subjects and skills. I mean, his thing was, he was the inventor of writing and the patron god of scribes. He was believed to have taught humans the art of writing and enabling communication and record keeping. He taught mathematics and science, particularly astronomy and geometry. He was considered the measurer and the recorder of time. And in his knowledge was believed to encompass the workings of the universe. Thoth was revered as a powerful magician and the god of magic. He was believed to have taught the ancient Egyptians the secrets of magic, including spells, rituals, and incantations. In the afterlife, Thoth played a crucial role in the judgment of souls. He was responsible for weighing the hearts of the deceased against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice, in the hall of Ma'at. Thoth was sometimes associated with healing and medicine. He was invoked in medical texts and rituals for protection against illnesses. And he was also in charge of healing the sick. Now, while in Kem, it is believed that Thoth was the architect of the Great Pyramids and then informed his people to go around the planet and duplicate what he had done there. Thoth was possibly going by several different names in other cultures. And those names were all in different points of time for different people. Different. So Ningishzida, he was the son of Enki in Sumerian. He was Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan in Mayan. He was Hermes in Greece. Carson believes the pyramid of Pakal was once a place where the tablets were hidden. And Thoth appears as thrice great, which translate into Trismegistos, as in Hermes Trismegistos. He had names such as Dehudi, Jehudi, Jehudi, Tahudi, Tehudi, Zehudi, Teku, Titu. Now, I do want to say this too. According to Carson's, the Mayan did not build the Teotihuacan or the Chichen Itza pyramid. It was there before they got there. This applies to the Great Pyramids as well. The Great Pyramids in Egypt were also there before the dynastic Egyptians arrived. And that story about Khufu, which I addressed in Book of Enoch, you can go back to that episode that I did in 2023 last season with Sal. Khufu was not the builder. It's already been determined that a white man had forged a cartouche and said that it was Khufu because he needed more funding for his exploration. So we know that Khufu did not build the fucking pyramids. And I think it's safe to say, considering the intelligent construction and architectural wonder that it is, that not a bunch of fucking slaves in sandals and loincloth fucking built the pyramids. I think that's silly. You know, I think it's silly. That's just my opinion. I stand firm on that. You can't convince me. Now, Thoth would eventually return to the halls of Amenti, where under the Great Pyramids, the Master of Masters dwells. The goal was to protect the tablets, but also spread the word to the Atlantean colonies. Now, Carson believes that there just wasn't one. You know how the lost city of Atlantis, but there were several all over the planet. In addition to the pyramids, Thoth wrote the Book of the Dead, which holds many descriptions, procedures, and passwords and references to these underground chambers at Giza, including the halls of Amenti. Quote, taught me he the path of Amenti, the underworld, where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Here is where Thoth passed through, quote, passed through the bodies of men in the manner described in the tablets. As such, he incarnated 3 times, his last being known as Hermes thrice born. Quote, down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, we are they who were from the space dust, partaking of life from infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. In it, I builded my knowledge of magic science so that I might be here when I again return from Amenti. I, While I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul roaming free will reincarnate, dwell among men in this form or another. Hermes thrice born. The Book of the Dead also credits Thoth as the designer and the builder of the Great Pyramids. It is believed that Jesus, or Yeshua, studied Egyptian mysteries and lived in Egypt with his mother, which was omitted from canonized texts in 325 AD, and he also learned reincarnation. Both these people, both Thoth, Jesus, and Hermes, talk about being born and rising again. Now, Thoth, quote, both in time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring accounting of those left behind me. Thoth speaks of the halls of Amenti, where there was apparently a regeneration chamber. He spent 10,000 years, quote, regenerating his avatar. Here's another quote. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light. And as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now, for a time I descend, and the men of Kim shall know me no more. Now let's talk about the Great Pyramids. The Great Pyramids of Giza showcases an intricate design that suggests that the builders possessed remarkable expertise in geodetic, astronomical, and astrophysical principles. This indicates a level of knowledge surpassing what is typically associated with advanced mathematics, including Newtonian mathematics. You know, like Isaac Newton. I actually call dumb people Isaac Newton. Like when somebody says something stupid, I was like, oh yeah, that was real smart, Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton. That's me being facetious. Now, in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, according to Carson, is a concrete box that appears to have been moved. It is said that the box is a sarcophagus, but Carson thinks it's the home of the Ark of the Covenant, as it is the same dimensions and smaller than most of the sarcophagi. Carson said that he's 6'4" and he can't fit in one of them motherfuckers at all without curling up in the fetal position. Now, the box has a large piece chipped off that Carson thinks flew off and hit a wall in the chamber, leading him to believe that there was some sort of device in there that was a powerful energy source that caused that piece to fly off. The Ark of the Covenant is a sacred artifact described in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament. It was a wooden chest overlaid in gold, constructed according to specific instructions given by God to the Israelites. The ark served as a symbol of God's presence among the Israelites and held great religious significance. Now, according to biblical accounts, the ark contained the stone tablets of what? The 10 Commandments. Those 10 Commandments were given to Moses on Mount Sinai. It also purportedly held other sacred items like Aaron's rod and a pot of manna. Manna is actually food. Now, Carson believes it was stolen by Moses, and that Moses is actually Pharaoh Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten is the father of King Tut. There are very interesting episodes of Ancient Aliens about Akhenaten, and if you look up pictures of Akhenaten's face, he looks like a fucking alien. I hate to be that guy. I really hate to be that guy. He looks like an alien. His head, his features, everything is long as shit. He kind of looks like Scottie Pippen, low key, but he really looks like a fucking alien. He was the father of King Tut. He was the husband of Nefertiti. And when he was forced out of Egypt after trying to create a monotheistic civilization that worshipped Amun-Ra, who was also an Anunnaki, okay, he took the Ark of the Covenant. Now, Carson believes that the Ark of the Covenant is actually a power source, like a reactor, that generates enough power to create the mana machine. The mana machine was used to generate food and kill enemies from a distance. He claims that the machine was so powerful that people who touched it without protection would get deathly ill, which he equates to radiation sickness. I do have a picture of a digital rendering of the mana machine, and I'm going to post it when I post about this episode. I did find a reference to an article that was written March 15th, 1933, in the Chicago Daily Tribune by about Frederick Rogers. He was the dean of the Department of Engineering at Lewis Institute of Technology. Quote, he conducted a careful study of the construction of the ark as described in the Bible and concluded that its design matched a perfectly constructed, simple electric condenser. The scientific interest in the construction pointed out by Professor Rogers said that the acacia wood box, about 40 inches long and slightly less than 30 inches in width and in depth, not only was lined with gold teal on the inside, but was overlaid with some metal without. Now, this, according to Professor Rogers, is the first step that any modern person with a flair for electrical experimentation will take to create a Leyden jar, except that the Leyden jar is a glass receptacle and is coated on the inside and the outside with tin foil instead of gold. Then, with the aid of a rod with a small knob at the top and a short chain at the bottom, which is inserted through the cork so that the chain can make contact with the bottom of the jar, the young experimenter is ready to collect small charges of bottled lightning. But the Ark of the Covenant was a much larger condenser. The divine directions called for the creation of 2 cherubim of pure gold to be placed on a gold slab, quote, or a mercy seat over top the ark. These cherubim, Professor Rogers explained, made up what he believes to have been the positive pole of a circuit. He explained that it is known among physicists that a difference of potential exists between the earth and the air, which may be collected in electrical charges under certain favorable conditions. And it was explained that even slight movements of heat rising in smoke, such as from burning sacrifices or even incense, would distribute lesser charges of static electricity. This, Professor Rogers explained, may have accounted for the collecting of bolts powerful enough to cause death. What'd you think of that? Now, under the Great Pyramids are aquifers that run water under the magnetized crystal granite. This created photostatic electricity, which Carson believes created a charge that went up into the Queen's chamber, created a hydrogen extractor to the Grand Gallery, where there were rods, which are now missing. Energy was pushed up to the apex, to the tip of the pyramid, and sent out all around Egypt, collected by obelisks. If you don't know what an obelisk is, it's basically like what's in Washington, the tall, very tall sculpture with the pointed tip at the top. They have them all over the world, but they also have them in Egypt. The obelisk would collect that and channel it. And here are some interesting facts about the intelligent design of the fucking pyramid. Was the pyramid just a wireless power plant used as a stone communication device? I'm asking for a friend. Now, according to Carson's lecture with Gaia, Earth's polar radius, the pyramid embodies a scale ratio of 1 out of 43,200. The height is 43,200, which equals 3,938.685 miles, which is the polar radius of the Earth within 11 miles. The scale of the pyramid, if you scale the pyramid down by 43,200, you actually get a model of the planet Earth, and it's a sphere. The pyramid itself is the scale of Earth's size. Now, the aerial view of the Giza Plateau perfectly aligns with the stars of Orion. The following list, and this is where shit gets super technical, so I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to go deeper. If you want to see any calculations and all that shit, it's all in the compendium, Billy Carson's book, because I'm not a fucking mathematician. In no way. 1 + 1 = 3. That's what I know. I'm just joking. I am an accountant, though. But I will say this. The dimensions and the scale and the mass of the Earth and the size and shape of the Earth are very connected. So a precise definition of the royal cubic as it relates to Earth is found in the Great Pyramid. The size and shape of the earth is found in the construction of the Great Pyramid. The mass and density. The pyramid's height is the average of all land mass on Earth. And this calculation can only be obtained by collecting data in a polar orbit. Remember that, because I'm going to come back to it. The gravitational constant, the escape velocity from Earth to obtain an open orbit, the escape velocity from Earth to obtain escape from the combined Earth and Sun's gravitational field. Okay, then there's the significance of the location of the Great Pyramid, the golden ratio, the mass of the sun, the mass of the moon, the mean distance of the sun and the circumference of Earth's orbit, the mean distance of the moon, the orbital velocity of the Earth, the orbital velocity of the moon. There are so much celestially connected to the Great Pyramid that it makes my brain hurt. The speed of light, for example, in a vacuum, is 299,792,458 meters per second. And you're like, wait a minute, the Egyptians knew meters? Yes, they did, according to Carson. They knew meters. Geographic coordinates from the Grand Gallery match the speed of light numerically, 29.9792458 degrees north versus 299,792,458 meters per second. The orbital velocity of the solar system relative to the center of the Milky Way galaxy. The velocity of the local group of galaxies, which includes the Milky Way galaxy relative to the universe. All of this math is supposedly built into the construction of this fucking pyramid. Quote, Thoth said, "Builded I the Great Pyramid pattern after the pyramid of earth. Force burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it, I builded my knowledge of magic science." So we can stop talking about the earth is flat. It's a sphere. And even the fucking ancients say that and have said it before, by the way, just so you know. Enoch fucking says it in the book of Enoch. That's a biblical text. Enoch literally says he's abducted. And when he saw Earth looking back at him, when he was looking down at Earth, it was a ball. We could just stop. Can we just stop? The fucking Earth is flat. It's not fucking flat. I hate that conversation. Now let's go back to the Great Pyramid's height. Now, according to Carson, the Great Pyramid's height is equivalent to the average height of all mountains and hills on Earth. Something had to collect that data, which could only be collected by a satellite taking topographical data in a polar orbit. And you're probably like, bitch, what the fuck does that even mean? I'm telling you what it means. What could collect this data? Carson's theory is that a satellite, which is referred to as a black night satellite, is in a polar orbit around the Earth as it is an all-seeing eye. Which he also says that the writer of Lord of the Rings, who I think is J.R. Tolkien, he actually got the all-seeing eye concept from the Black Knight satellite. Now, the Black Knight satellite, and when I say polar orbit, as we know, orbits usually go horizontally. Polar orbits go from pole to pole, North Pole, South Pole, so up and down across the Earth. There's only one thing that we have that does that, and apparently it's this Black Knight satellite. Now, the conspiracy theory behind the Black Knight satellite, which people claim has been in orbit for 13,000 years. The original theory began in the 1950s, and it's believed by UFO theorists to be extraterrestrial. It's also believed that there are radio signals bouncing off of it. NASA says it's just debris. Carson believes that this is Annunaki. He thinks Enlil, Enki's brother, the one who wanted to destroy the planet, it's his effort to control the population and watch the planet. So he does shit to us from the Black Knight satellite. Now, you're probably like, okay, weird, but this is even weirder because they claim that a radio signal comes off the Black Knight satellite and it keeps sending information or sending signals to the Boötes constellation. And according to Carson, Enlil owns the Boötes constellation in Mesopotamian texts. Didn't look it up. Not sure, but that's what he says. Now, the constellation Boötis, though, is one of 88 recognized constellations in the night sky. In it is something called the Boötis Void. The Boötis Void contains a vast region of space known as the Boötis constellation contains this region of vast space known as the Boötis Void, which is nearly empty. Its expanse with very few fucking galaxies. And it is one of the largest voids in observable universe. Now, according to Carson, Michio Kaku thinks that the Boötis Void is possibly a cloaked advanced civilization. I didn't look it up, but I did look up Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku is a prominent theoretical physicist. He's a futurist. He's a popular science communicator. He's known for his work in string theory. He is known for a branch of theoretical physics that aims to unify the fundamental sources or forces of nature. Kaku earned his degree in Bachelor of Science at Harvard in 1968. He got his PhD in physics from the University of California at Berkeley in 1972. He's currently a professor of theoretical physics at the City College of New York. He has many positions throughout his career. He also has done a lot of academic work. He's one of those people who's helped explain very complex concepts to the general public. He's written a bunch of books. He's appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries, including he hosted shows on the Science Channel, on Discovery Channel. I mean, he's just a very popular figure as far as science communication. He's also highly respected physicist and author and a media personality. So, that doesn't make him not crazy, but it also, if it's true that he said that the Boötis constellation is possibly a cloaked advanced civilization, considering his credentials, I don't really have a reason to not believe him. But again, I didn't look it up. So my question to you is, what do you think? Are we still being watched by the Annunaki? Because Carson claims that the pyramids were to be a time capsule of knowledge, and that Thoth implemented all of that knowledge in this building itself, so that when the time came, we would know of that knowledge. And it's not until we all collectively reach a higher level of consciousness that we will be able to truly know who created us. He is of the opinion that this is all circumstantial evidence, but it makes a great fucking case. And if this was a murder case, we would probably all be in jail. Now, Carson ends his book with the words from Hermes, aka Thoth, quote, "Wise words, although written by a decaying hand, remain imperishable through time, imbued with the medicine of immortality by the All-Master. Be unseen and undiscovered by all those who will come and go, wandering the wastelands of life. Be hidden until an older heaven births human beings who are worthy of your wisdom." End quote. And that is the Annunaki. Now, I want to say this. If you go back to my episode on the Book of Enoch, then you would know my very celestial connection to the cosmos, and which I think was episode 12 last season. If you go back to the episode, you will hear me talk about with a lot of feeling. One, because I was high, but two, because it's how I feel with space, with understanding why we're here, who we are, what all of this is for. And these are very grand concepts, but I also find comfort in knowing that I'll never know too, right? Like you can't really explore these topics and truly think that, okay, sure, solidified. But this is a concept that I don't hate to say it. Fuck it. I'm okay with this concept that somewhere a species a being existed that was far more advanced than what we are right now. And there were a group of people who were injected with the essence of gods, and that created me. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the idea that somewhere a bunch of Sumerians sat and wedged a bunch of cuneiform into tablets where they tried to, in the best way that they could, tell a story of what was happening to them. I'm okay with that. I feel like when you start to see so many different parts of the world share the same story with different names, what these bitches call each other on the cell phone and be like, okay, you gonna talk about Zeus today? What y'all calling Zeus over there? What y'all calling Enlil over there? What y'all calling Thoth over there? Like, how are these beings able to communicate? And with all of these different pyramids that popped up, I'm okay with the idea of believing that somewhere there were a bunch of gods who decided to build a bunch of fucking pyramids to hold the wisdom of the universe until the species that they created reached a certain level of consciousness to receive it. Right now, we are so muddied and so fucked up that even the people that created us keep flying by and thinking, wow, Earth is ghetto. When we joke and we say that Earth is ghetto. Because at the end of the day, the shit that we do to each other, one thing Carson even says is the gods must be looking down at us and thinking, wow, they got a bunch of motherfucking bombs pointed at each other. They're going to destroy each other. And maybe Enlil is circling around in that black fucking nice satellite and thinking, I hope they do, because I never wanted them bitches to exist anyway. But what do we do? Where do we stand in all of this? What should we do to change the narrative and prove to the gods that we deserve to exist? Should we continue what we're doing? Probably not. Should we continue murdering each other? Probably not. Where things got a little convoluted is that we created all these different government systems of control. And with those controls, as we saw from the Book of Enoch into the canonized text of the Bible, and the idea of, instead of having a polytheistic system, we needed a monotheistic system where not only are we worshiping one deity, but we're also worshiping kings that we are supposed to believe are receiving information from that one deity. Things got very, very convoluted. And we have been wandering aimlessly through the cosmos ever since. So the reason why I'm okay with this story, because I can't say I firmly believe it, but I'm saying I'm okay with this story. I'd rather say it like that than to say I believe it. I'm okay with it as a concept, is because it really inherently shows how we are truly made of star stuff. And how we are so interwoven into everything. From the atom to the molecule to everything that we are. This sack of meat, to our consciousness, to spirituality, to actually being a part of a matrix. To being a part of and being light. Literally, being energy. That makes me feel good. I like feeling like I have control of me, that I'm a god as well, that you are gods as well. I'm okay with you all wielding and knowing your power and where it lies and what your purpose is. If you were created from an Annunaki being, and each Annunaki being served a purpose, and further down the line, we were just bred, and they kept breeding and breeding and breeding. Which Anunnaki are you a part of, and what was the purpose of your group? Because that should be what the fuck you're doing. And I think that we see, when we joke, when we see the people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, and we see these motherfuckers and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the people that can read math and turn numbers into matter. When we see people like that, and we always joke, that motherfucker's an alien. This is what we're talking about. But just because it's alien doesn't mean it's good or bad. And we're not talking about little green men either. We're talking about an advanced species that looked like you and me, that made us who we are. that modified our DNA to such an extent that now we are so advanced in a short amount of period. The fact that we have gone from the horse and buggy to the fucking Tesla. The fact that we have gone from no phone. I mean, even if you just look at the advancement of the iPhone alone, if you look at the advancement of the television alone, that is a short period of time. These are advancements in technology. They come from some fucking where. And if you can't actually say what it's from, and if we got ancient texts that kind of give us some reference point here, I said this in the book of Enoch, who says that this isn't possible? Can't say it is, can't say it isn't. But like I said in book of Enoch too, if you know me, you know how I feel about the cosmos. My screensaver is the cosmos. My wallpaper is the moon. I named my dog Luna. That means moon. I've loved this type of shit. So to me, this was a very wonderful opportunity to really just get into a different topic of just spirituality and elevation. And I will say, if you're interested in the compendium of the Emerald Tablets, read it. I mean, it's a wealth of fucking random ass information that I feel like will explain a lot of things. I'm not a scientist, though. I can't prove it or deny it. All I can do is read it and be like, oh, okay, that seems interesting. But there is something sometimes when you read shit and it just kind of recalibrates your brain and you're like, damn, that actually makes sense, though. And it doesn't work for everybody. There are some people where the organized theology makes more sense. That makes more sense. And there are people like me who's just like, I firmly believe that possibly there's a fucking alien civilization that created us, because I refuse to be arrogant and think that nothing else exists. So when you out here doing wild shit, you being stupid, remember you're embarrassing the universe. When you out here doing wild shit and you are not even just doing wild shit, but you're constantly trying to find your purpose and where you matter and where you just remember that you are the universe too, as well. And that even when you can't find your purpose per se, and you don't really know why you're here, there were so many other possibilities that for some strange reason the universe picked you. So when you question whether or not there are aliens, when you question whether or not there are advanced intelligent species, you live among them and you are one of them. You're alien, my guy. So I don't know how that's going to make you feel. I don't know how this episode is going to make you feel about me. I don't really give a fuck, but we're probably alien. I'm going to just leave it right there. We're probably alien. I mean, and is that a bad thing? Do you really just want to be minimized to a sack of meat floating around on a rock? Or do you want to be lifted up to a certain level of consciousness and understanding where you can comfortably say, I am the universe? Because you are. What the fuck? Every part of you is a science, from the brain all the way down to your fucking feet, to what you believe in, to what you understand, the mind, the heart. Everything about you is science. You. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you made the Monkey 47 Gibson, I hope you enjoyed that too. And I hope when you look at the cosmos tonight, if you can, without all this fucking light pollution, or anytime you look at a celestial body like the sun or the moon, I hope you feel how connected you possibly are to it. And that you fucking literally matter. Okay? Cool. All right, cool. Y'all have a good one. May the force be with you. Bye.